As soon as businesses hop on social media, they often wonder how they can go viral, yet somehow struggle to get even one share on a post on Facebook. Creating content that is shareable is important for any business that wants to build their following on social media and have long-term success in the digital world. But shareable content isn't as easy to create as you would think it might be. So shareable content is essentially anything that's shared by other users. So anything you post that someone else likes enough to share and post on their own profile is technically considered shareable content. So the first thing a lot of people think of when they hear the word share in terms of social media is simply when you post something on Facebook, it will get X amount of comments, X amount of likes, and X amount of shares. And ideally, what you're looking for is to get a really high number of those shares so that more people are seeing your content and more people are engaging and loving you and eventually supporting your business. And that's essentially the dream right there. But I want to encourage you to think a little bit differently about shareable content and not just thinking of it as a regular old post that you're throwing out there hoping somebody else likes enough to post on their own page, but rather to think of shareable content as its own strategic entity. So a shareable content can be pretty much anything. It can be a native post on Instagram or on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you post your content, but it can also be a link to something else, probably living on your website. So like quizzes or PDFs or blog posts, downloadables, freebies, basically anything that you are consuming or you are creating with the consumer in mind. So you're curating it and strategizing this specific piece of content, knowing that someone's going to look at that and then hopefully find enough value in it that they share it with their friends. So, further than that, I want you to think of shares more than just reposting on Facebook or on Instagram, but also thinking of shares as messaging to a friend, tagging a friend in something, taking the actual link from where that lives and sending it to a friend, calling somebody, talking about it later, mentioning it in conversation, although you obviously can't track that. But ideally, the content you're creating will be valuable enough to people that they're talking about it later. So now that you know what shareable content is, you're probably like, but how do I create that? How do I create something that people are going to look at and maybe even save and set as their background for future people to discover or for them to think about 3 months down the line? So just some basics about shareable content. Remember that it is relatable. So first and foremost, it grabs your audience members because of its relatability. So something about it either appeals to their emotions or who they are as a person, or maybe they know a friend that it actually relates to or reminds them of someone else or something that's already happened. So whatever you're creating should be made with your audience in mind or your audience's audience in mind. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you know who you're posting for really well, so that you can be creating that with them in mind. Secondly, the content should be entertaining. So it doesn't mean it has to be funny, but it can be funny. And it should entertain your audience in some way. So it provides some kind of value, some kind of talent or humor, again, or some kind of interest to your audience, again, to pique their interest and to relate to them, and has some kind of value for them. Again, it's practical, so it's going to give them something that they didn't have before, whether that's on a very basic surface level appeal, or whether you're providing them with some really deep, interesting statistics, facts, reports that they can't find anywhere else. It should also be easily consumable, so especially that headline or wherever they're finding it should be really consumable for them. And then if they feel like diving in deeper, then they can do that. And lastly, it should have some kind of visual appeal. So it should catch their eye if they're seeing it in a feed or on a website somewhere, and then it should have enough appeal that it's holding them for long enough. So whether that's a photo, a video, a graphic, or some kind of evenly spaced out, really basic design, it should be appealing to our visual senses. And lastly, I just want to share with you guys a really great example. If you need ideas for shareable content, then you should look to sites like BuzzFeed. So again, this is a little bit of a different example because BuzzFeed is a business created solely for the purpose of creating content. So if you're a business that sells products, obviously your content might be a little bit different. But BuzzFeed is a prime example of creating content for shareable purposes. So they create really short, really entertaining or informative articles or videos or graphics or any kind of content that they're creating is consumable, relatable, it interests people, and it makes people want to share it with their friends. So I would encourage you to go out there, look at what you find yourself sharing on Facebook, what your friends are sharing on Facebook, and see how you can relate that back to your business. And start strategizing more about the content that you're actually creating and sharing that on social media instead of just coming up with posts for post's sake. And you'll see that that's going to be a really major trend in 2019. So in order to stay ahead of the curve, you really want to be strategizing the content that you're putting out there. Again, not just throwing out posts to meet your requirements for the week. So have fun creating shareable content. And if you have any ideas or questions, go ahead and throw them in the comments here. I'd love to see what you guys are creating for your audiences.